Hi, everybody. This is Holland Martin for the Never Die podcast. And thanks for joining me again to Mr. Dave Colescott, 1976 Trester Award winner and Mr. Basketball from the Marion Giants. Thanks for joining me again, Dave.
Hey, Holland, you know me. I can talk to you forever. Let's go. Let's talk about Marion. I love talking to you.
All right, let's go right into it since we're on part two. Let's go right into that junior year against Loogootee. And we talked about that a little bit in the other video, but what I had noticed is I did some more research. Kevin Pearson, 6'5", played quarterback on the football team, and he was very, very good. His stats popped out on me every time I looked up some research. Could you just talk about the impact that he had on that team?
Yeah, well, like I told you, that was probably the most balanced team we had, but I never felt like now you got to remember in 75, we hadn't won a state since 26,
yes,
49 years. And we all we ever heard was Bill started talking just a little bit about it during the season, but, no one ever thought that. But, back to Kevin, like you said, I'd never played with a guy had more heart and a force inside. And, I guess we took him for granted, but he could jump very, very well, but he was well conditioned, but, just great determination.
yes.
And I think truly underrated, though. I think he probably was, I thought, one of the best big men in the state that year. So, but you're right. He did a lot of little things. He took care of the inside, took care of the boards, scored when he had to. But, he and my dad were good friends. They played softball together. But his dad was quite the player. And, you don't think about it when you're a young kid, but yeah, Kevin was always up for the big game. And I'll tell you what, he definitely had the drive. He very much was a competitor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely noticed that. Just one more thing on him. He was getting 20 and 20s, 20 points and 20 rebounds, when I guess that, I wouldn't think that was kind of the norm. But shout out to having that big guy in the middle. Nowadays, he'd be out shooting threes, but thank heavens that back in the good old days, we had a post presence.
Yeah, you talked about a competitor, very strong in track, could high jump, good runner, quarterback. He was, but he loved to jump. That was probably the biggest thing you could, that reminded me of when you think of him. I always thought about he just loved to jump. Everything he did, he just liked hopping up. And, he'd tell you how he felt, though. I tell you, he was very vocal.
Oh, yeah. He looked like a tough customer. I really liked that whole team by going through it. And you averaged, like we talked before, 18.7 that junior year. And kind of went through the regular season pretty good. But I'd like to talk about that junior year, 1-16 in a row, and then all of a sudden Fort Wayne Snider come along, and which we ended up losing. But I want to backtrack. I want to ask you about the night before that. It was an overtime win at home versus North Central, and I wanted to ask you if that tough overtime game at home affected you guys the next night up in Fort Wayne.
Well, first of all, we drove by the high school today, and it was just magical, the home games. And, back then, the Indianapolis schools were tough. Lawrence North wasn't quite, really on the map. So when you talk a lot about the tough school in Indy, it was North Central was one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
I think Licklider was the name of the coach, but yeah, it was a fun game in overtime, and it was exciting, and it was really one of the first times that Bill showed his great coaching, had a play, and it was like yesterday. I love to go hard, and I just flew down the court, a couple seconds left, and I'll never forget. One of the guys came up on me, and Mike Flynn, who had a great game. I shot one over to him, a pass. I didn't pass too much, but I passed that time, and he caught it. And at the gun, I'll never forget. He shot that layup real high, higher than I thought, and of course it went in at the gun. But I think their strategy, Fort Wayne, when they beat us, I think their strategy was have 4 or 5 guards on me and just keep, wearing me out. I remember we never had any dissension, but I think I played bad that night. I didn't take care of the ball. I know that, it's easier said than done, but the big guys were down the other end and they're wide open. And, it was a learning experience because I was a junior, but, they never complained to me a lot because I told them they missed me in the sectional, and we'll get to that. But, just didn't have a good game at all. I didn't take care of the ball. They had some great, Fort Wayne had some great guards.
Yes.
And I think their strategy, but we looked at that as, it's hard to go 20-0. And I think we talked about that game a lot, and I'm not a big believer in losses are a learning experience, but I think in that case, it didn't take the pressure off. I think we were all upset and mad, but I do believe we learned something from that game that, appreciate each other.
Yeah.
When they pressured, Doug Harris was great, but he wasn't a classic, two guard as far as doing a lot of the dribbling and bring the ball to court. But I think, we learned a lot. The other guys, Acord, Lester, Billy didn't get enough credit. He really was a good ball handler and would do those things. And I think from that game, he really helped me out personally because, he was fearless. He didn't worry about anything. And he'd get the ball and he'd bring it down. And usually he had a taller guy and he was very athletic. So, while we got beat, again, I think we learned something from that. And I think it really kind of catapulted us to the tournament. And, I don't know if we'd have won it 16-0. We may not have, may have been a little bit too cocky, but it definitely, we could have been number one. I'll never forget at that Friday night game, we beat North Central, and the next day we're number one. We're all feeling good, and come on, man, you're number one. That's all we cared about, is being the best in the state. And then we got beat, and but that's life.
But in bouncing back though. And if anything, I'd rather lose in the middle of the season than at the end. And you guys didn't end up losing anymore the rest of the season. So, and I think I read on a publication that you guys said right then and there, we're not going to lose any more games. Come out the very next game a week later and blow out Logansport 91-71. How did you guys feel that first game after that loss? Can you recall back to that Logansport game, just blowing those guys out?
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, I'm being nice about it, but, I got a lot of grief. My mom and dad heard a lot about, come on, man, he's got to get the ball inside. And they were right, everybody. So, I had to sharpen my, my skills. Again, I was the only junior, but it's what we learned in the NCAA tournament. You got to, single elimination. You got to be ready every night.
Yes.
We weren't ready that night. I definitely wasn't ready. And, like I said, but yeah, in practice that week, I'll just say Bill had a fiery side to him, and spirited was probably the best way to describe it. Very spirited. It's almost like he was always great leaders, always thinking ahead. He was already could tell that he felt, I think we had it in us because he knew what it took to win a state. We didn't know what it took to win a state.
Mm-hmm.
But I think really from that point on, I would just say we got in another gear. And I know you're going to talk about the Big Oak Hill game, though. That's going to be one we're going to talk about, though.
Oh, yes. Now, that was but first, going into the sectional, started off with Miss Cinewall. We had you got 28 points in that game. You guys ended up beating them 72-50, though. But there was in that third quarter against Miss Cinewall, and you came out and scored, I don't know, 4 or 5 buckets in a row. Can you remember and talk about that first game?
You gotta remember something about Miss Cinewall. Now you got to remember, I'm 2 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Bill Green. I'm a sophomore. He's talking about me. He's making fun of me, and all my teammates telling me that I can't really say it. I'm a wimp. And he told me that my mom's going to bake brownies for me, and I'm a little baby. And he called me all names as sophomore. Mm-hmm. So I never told you that story, but I wanted to quit. I told Dad, I said, Dad, this man's crazy. Mm-hmm. I said, Bill Green is a nut. I want to go play for you. I want you to go to your alma mater. He went to Gas City, but Miss Cinewall was the consolidation. Yes. My grandpa lived over there. All my cousins lived in Gas City. Mm-hmm. And, I grew up playing ball over a lot of on the courts over by the old high school. And, we just had a lot of fun. So, Gas City was important to me. So playing Miss Cinewall was a big game for me. I knew the guys. Yes. And who couldn't like Junior Manis, a great man. So I always got up for Miss Cinewall. And, like both my aunt and uncles were over there. And as I said, my grandparents. So, like I said, I think we really were very serious, and we wanted to just go after every game and, dominate and take it to them. And I think we did. And I think we had a great game against Miss Cinewall.
Oh, yeah. And so much so that looks like with being up 20, 4 minutes left, Coach pulled you guys. Heck, you might have got 40 or 50 in there if he had kept you in there, but pulled you guys with respect. And then moving on to the next game of the second round of the sectional. Now, that's the Oak Hill game that we're talking about. Now, if I can remember on our first one, was this the game you were talking about that you were under the weather and got rushed to the game? That was the sectional game, this one?
Yeah, it's, again, I do tease the 4 seniors. I told them that, while I let them down in the Fort Wayne Snider game, I told them you learned to appreciate me a little bit.
Yes.
And, like I said, Mom took care of me. Dad always went out to the arena before it was called Bill Green Arena, but he went out to the arena early. Mm-hmm. I was in bed at 7:00, and I told Mom. She kept trying to get me up. I said, Mom, I'm not getting up. I was sick of my stomach, and I know you're an athlete. You know what it feels like.
Oh, man.
I don't know if I had food poisoning or what, but I got a lot of grief from friends at Oak Hill after that game. They, rightfully so said I was overrated. But all I know, I had my pajamas on, like shorts and T-shirt, and Mom kept calling Dad, and Dad said, Marge, get him out of bed. You got to get him here. And I said, I'm not playing. I'm sleeping.
It's a sectional game. Get here. February, get here.
Yeah. So all I know, hadn't eaten all day. I'm sorry to say this, I shouldn't say it, but back then you had long hair and you got your hair all poofed up and washed, and I've been in bed all day. I didn't care what I looked like. I was white as a ghost. I didn't have any didn't have any color. I didn't have any strength. And so Mom got me to the back of the door, and they're all looking for me. And I'll never forget Doc Long, great man. I don't know what he put in there, but he hit me twice with shots.
Boom.
Boom. Now, I didn't feel like $1 million, but I don't remember the game. I know that I probably played my worst game, and it wasn't about me, but I think I got 8 to 10 points, and but I really don't remember much about it. All I know is we survived it. But I did tease my other 4 seniors that they needed me more than they thought.
You know me, brother. I went back to the lab and found out about the story. So this is what happened. You got 11 points on 4 out of 13 field goals, four fouls. What happened was Oak Hill was game the whole night. At the end, I think it was 44-42 them. Greg Smith had a big night over there. What happened was Pearson missed a shot. Acord went up and got fouled with 5 seconds left. Acord hit 2 free throws to make it 48 to 46. To 46-46. Rick Alexander from Oak Hill, then he got called for 3 seconds in the lane. And Marion gets the ball back, and we win. So that's how we won that game. But Greg Smith from Oak Hill had a big game with 25. But then we move on. So you guys got Oak Hill.
Hey, Holland, I hate to interrupt you, but I got to say something about Greg Smith.
Yes,
what a nice guy. Not that it wasn't Duke Carolina, but there was a lot of Oak Hill was very, very strong. Madison Grant was good then, and all the county teams, but Oak Hill was real good. But it was nice that 20 years later, I don't know, we got to run into each other and chat. And he had a great career at Houston. But think about all those great players they had. It was kind of an interesting story. Jack Kiefer was the coach, and I had his wife Sue Kiefer in class, and she was my favorite teacher. So I tell you, there was a lot of
plot lines and sub story to that. Yes, and then he, like we say, he ended up going to LN and getting all those Ethiopian boys over there, big old 7-foot boys over there, along with Montross, and doing big things.
He's a great guy, but he always worked at camp at Carolina. A lot of respect for him. But my brother-in-law was on the bench as a coach, assistant coach. I loved her trainer. It was just a fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
And you feel sorry that anybody had to lose, but I think that after that game, you're doing your research. I don't feel like anybody really, up till we got to Loogootee, ever really came close to us. Yeah. And I do want to mention, I'll let you go through it, but there's another game I think was very, very pivotal. But I did want to give a shout out to Greg Smith from Oak Hill. What a class guy he is.
Well, I wanted to touch on that too, because was there any rumblings of home cooking? Because he had the Marion sectional, he had the Marion regional, then we didn't really have to go anywhere until we went to Fort Wayne. How was that home cooking advantage? I mean, or was it an advantage?
Oh, come on. All honesty, you got to feel sorry for the county schools, but can you imagine home court, our crowd? I think the arena, Bill Green Arena, is the best place to, maybe Newcastle, but I got to tell you, with our fans, we talked a lot last time about Giant pride, and you got to say that's a huge advantage. And
7,500 people, and 6,000 are yours. It makes a big difference.
And Marion fans, just are the best, just when, I can still remember that sound of last minute things happening, and you just can't, you have to experience it. But it was an honor to play in front of, I think the best place to play and the best fans. But yeah, how can you not say that's an advantage? It was so much fun.
Oh, man, that's beautiful stuff, man. I'm just loving all these stories. Let's move on through. Beat Elwood. You got 27 in that game. Beat Elwood 76-57 in the sectional final. Phil Leisure from over there got 33 for them, though.
Hey, can I tell you about something about him? Phil Leisure, left-handed.
Yes.
He could light it up. I don't know what happened to him, but
he could play.
I could never even come close to him in the scoring. And you know me, I'd probably shoot 10 to 15 more times than him and not get as many points. He was just a nice guy. He didn't say anything, and we didn't talk much, but just a kind of guy that just went out and just would light it up. And a lot of respect. But I got to tell you, I think he came earlier that year and went for like 40. I mean, he would just he would do it, make it look easy. But I'm glad he didn't have a lot of guys with him.
Yes, and we got that W. So now we move on to Norwell. Now just doing my research on that Norwell game, Kevin Pearson was having an out-of-body experience, but he turned his ankle the middle of the second quarter, but he had 7 points and 12 rebounds. He could have went for 40. He could have went for 40 and 40 that night, but fate would have it that he turned his ankle. That allowed Mike Flynn and Joe Neal and Acorn to step up. But could you talk about losing your big man in the tournament?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, Mike Flynn was underrated. Good friend of mine, a great player. Can you imagine, really around those five guys? And he never complained, and he was always there, but he came up in some big moments.
Yes.
Tuffy didn't get a lot of time, but, you're right, Acord picked it up. But It was funny. All I remember is I think he learned a valuable lesson, because I told you he loved Kevin. We're talking about Kevin. For some reason, he loved to wear these Puma sneakers, low cut. And, I'm not against that. I'd always try to wear 3/4, and you can see what happened to Baycott at Carolina. At any time, people don't realize it in basketball. That is, anytime, that's how it ended my career. But anytime you can step on a foot, even if you're taped. And I'll never forget after that game, Kevin played through it. But I really believe that Dick Luton's our trainer, and Coach Green, they really made it a concerted effort, because, Kevin was the type that he didn't want anything to restrict him. And, his vertical was out of sight.
Yes.
But, it was scary. Without him, there's no way we could have, and but I do remember that after that, the taping, I think, was important. But I think that, he came back even stronger. But, yeah, I think he would have gone for 40 that night. I've never seen – he was really playing the best basketball of his career.
Yes. Luckily, he was able to get that ankle under wraps. So by the time you guys got to the regional against Huntington, he got 17 points, 16 rebounds. You chipped in 18. Rob had 9 and 7, and we keep rolling on toward the tournament. Now we get to Fort Wayne North in semi-state. Whooped them 82-61. You got 18. Pearson 21 and 10, which was really good. Moving on, getting that first championship since 26.
Yeah, can I talk to you about? Do you mind if I talk to you about the semi-state?
No, sir.
Few things. I think there was a pivotal thing when I felt like for the first time I learned something personally, but I learned something. I think our team learned something. So anyway, we had to play Columbia City in the afternoon, and it was sad. Their best player got hurt.
Yes.
I can't remember what his name was, but he was tough. I didn't know him because he wasn't there, and I felt sorry for him. So I'm not saying it was an easy game, but can you imagine? By far they're 20-point, 25-point players. So I feel that team, they had Frank Thomas, Fort Wayne, Northside. That was probably their best team Hay had in a long time. And I'll never forget, I learned a lifelong lesson, and I think the team did too. I don't know what the score was in halftime. It was definitely close. Like I said, we weren't, other than Oak Hill the whole tournament, we weren't within 10 to 15 points. But I'll never forget, it's the best, the start of the third quarter, second half. I always say this, the start of the third quarter is the most important few minutes to set the tone.
Yes.
We came out and it was a blitzkrieg. I know I hit 4 or 5, but I think we hit 9 or 10 shots in a row, and we just annihilated them. Hay calls a timeout, and this is a lifelong lesson. It's probably what Carolina could have used against Kansas.
Yes.
So we're all happy. Of course, Bill, a great leader, he's thinking about next week. And so I go running over to the huddle, and I thought Coach for the first time was going to give me some love. He takes me by the collar, picks me up he picked me off the ground. Wild Bill. And he starts screaming at me. He said, what are you doing? What have you done for Marion? I said, nothing. He said, I want more. He said, don't you dare come to this thing and smile. He said, get that smile off your face.
In the semi-state. He said, it's in the semi-state.
I said, we're up 20. We're going to go to the state. You're screaming at me. But I learned a valuable lesson, Holland, that you never, momentum in life is a precious thing. And what he was saying was, that's the first time, I'm sorry to say this, I always thought very much just about not big picture. I didn't really think about the state. I didn't think about where we were. I didn't think about all the things that were coming our way. And I tell you what, if there was a moment, a learning moment, teaching moment,
that was it.
Me. But as usual, I never understood why he didn't pick up Pearson. He didn't pick up Lester. He didn't pick up Acord. He didn't pick up Harris. He picked me up.
Yep.
But I don't know. But it sure taught me a lesson. And I came out the rest of the tournament ready to play. Yes,
because in that, for the first round of the finals, you got 24 points. And got the W, 73-65. Kevin got 14 and 12 again. And now we're ready to roll into that Loogootee game, and we all know what happened there. Real tight nip and tuck game, like we talked about last time. I just, that junior years, but what I did notice is that whole final game, your junior year, Coach really didn't sub anybody to the last 20 seconds. And then Neil came in and got a quick 2 points, couple rebounds, and a missed shot. But that was pretty much it for the sub. Like, were you guys? Was it a concerted effort in practice and to condition you guys to just run?
Well, no. Well, first of all, it's funny how your memory goes. Okay, so I don't want to keep hurrying through it and talk forever on this, and I'm sorry, but I have a little bit of the background against Lebanon. So you remember as kids, all of us were around 12 years old when we lost in 68 and 69. Okay. Yes. And I don't believe in a curse, but, think about Oscar Evans. I don't care what anybody says. He traveled. We should have won in 68. I'm not saying we stayed, but we should have won the opening first game. And then 69, I mean, come on. Why did we have to play Washington? That would have been the better game at night. But again, both times we lost in the afternoon. So all I'm telling you, before Lebanon, Bill, he was not in a good mood. He was not festive.
Was he
He was not.
nervous? Is he?
Well, he was nervous about Lebanon, but he was petrified, and I'll tell you why, of Loogootee, or if we played Loogootee. So
Yeah.
he was smart. He was worried about the Walkers. Lebanon had a really, really good team, but we matched up well with them. Brian Walker, I couldn't stop him, but, we did a good job against Brian.
Yeah.
But I tell you talked about it a little bit when we were caucusing today. Rob Acord, I'm going to tell you what, he and Lester and Pearson, they shut down that Steve Walker. He was an all-star. He didn't know what hit him because we had a great matchup.
Yeah. He had a walk 6'5", 6'5", 6'5" on him.
And I got to tell you, that's probably, in my mind, that was the best game we played all year. We weren't even going to let Lebanon get in. They never got in the flow. I really believe that, other than the Fort Wayne North, but I really believe we were peaking as a team right at that time. Yeah. So, but I got to tell you, Bill, after the game, I'll never forget, we found out we were playing Loogootee. Now, then you didn't have a lot of time to prepare. He was petrified that it would be another Milan. It'd be a 35 to 33 game. He was, I've never seen him that uptight. He just always said before the Loogootee game is, guys, if they get a lead, they get a lead 2-0, 4-0, we will lose. And he said it. He was not, you could always feel when a coach is relaxed.
He wasn't relaxed. Like, we've got to be up at least 2-0 on these guys.
He said, with the Butcher and that team, and that guy was smart. He was known around. See, we didn't know much. All we cared about was Anderson, Kokomo, the county.
NCC.
Yeah, NCC. But I'm going to tell you, down in Southern Indiana, he played a certain style. But again, luckily, I said he did his greatest coaching job the next year, but in 75, that was the one game that he was most nervous about. So I wanted to make sure I tell you, that was a nerve-wracking game because they were a type of team that they controlled the ball and they could get the air out of the ball.
And was Rick Mount already at Purdue at that time?
Oh, he was long gone, but Lebanon had a great, I grew up in I think I told you in '69 it was at 3M's. It was at Purdue. Mount was at Purdue. Murphy was at Niagara, and Maravich was at LSU. All of them were averaging about 38 a game. So we all watched them on TV, and we weren't scared of Lebanon, but you better respect Lebanon with that heritage and the great tradition.
Definitely. Now let's jump into that senior year a little bit, just real quick. Now I did doing my thing. Now you scored 37 points against Lafayette your senior year. I want to say a 30-footer at the buzzer, winning 55-54. Do you remember that game your senior year against Lafayette, Jeff?
Come on, Holland. What do you think, man? I knew I remember a shot. Let me tell you something. We had a run there that you talk about the crowd at Marion, and I just want to make sure and go on record. I don't think it was 30. Okay, I'm telling you, it was 35 feet, 33 to 35 feet. Okay,
so it was Steph Curry range from the midcourt.
All I remember is see, you don't realize us players have a long memory. And I think my friends that they still don't care for me much, being Pearson, Acord, Lester.
Yes.
And we went down to Lafayette Jeff the year before. And to say Lafayette Jeff was dirty was an understatement. And I'll never forget, I think Grenette was one of the players. You can look him up, but they were just dirty, and they thought we were going to be intimidated. And we're marrying. We're not dirty, but we're not going to back down.
No.
And I don't know which one of those clowns did something to Lester or Acord, but all this, I wasn't the one. I was a lover. I was the only one. But Pearson was strong, Harris was strong, Lester and Acord. But I think that's when we came together because, they thought for us, they were a little bit like Duke. They just thought they were better than others. I just didn't like them. And for that, because, I never said anything, but I know one thing, Acord and Lester, somebody did something, some cheap shop, and we came together. So I had a little bit of, how do I say it?
A little edge to you,
I believe in love and I believe in forgiveness, but I don't forget. And so Joe Heath, I think, was the coach. So most of those clowns were gone. But anytime Marion could play Lafayette Jeff, they used to wear Dad out a little bit. But then, of course, my dad, got it right. And we beat Lafayette Jeff a lot. But, I think going back to my dad's years, he was always the gentleman. Sometimes some of the coaches, I don't think, treated my dad with the respect he deserved. But, Dad didn't say anything. So that's a big game for me playing Jeff. So I think it's less than 5 seconds to go. And we're down 1. And I'll tell you, Holland, I don't know what was over me, but I really felt in my heart. I said, we're going to win this game. We're at Marion.
I believe.
I want it real bad. And all I know, I flew down fast as I could. And I got across the half court, and I knew I had one more dribble, and I just got up in the air.
Let her fly.
And it was.
Did you kind of just watch it as it, boom, everybody go crazy?
Hey, all I can tell you, I never. I'm not saying I didn't have fun, but I didn't care about that. All I wanted to do was win. I didn't want to embarrass anybody. But all I know, all my buddies in the crowd, they all came and picked me up, and I never, I didn't think anybody cared about me at all. But it was the greatest, one of the greatest feelings in my life that I could help the team. But we were just hearing that crowd again at the arena, and it was it was a fun. It was lucky, but we did it.
You did it. Like what we always say. Either the ball goes in or the ball bounces out. All right. So also, you averaged 26.5 your senior year. And I also noticed, was that a career high 42 against Oak Hill that senior year? Was that maybe a little get back from the junior year in the tournament? Like, I'm healthy now, boys. Now this is me at my full strength. 42 against Oak Hill.
Well, you never, like I said, never really partook in talking trash. There was a couple extra incentives for me that game. I did hear a little bit throughout the next year after we won the state that Oak Hill was better than Marion. They should have won the state. I'm not saying they probably did play us better than any other team.
Yeah.
So, but that's not my thing. But I didn't appreciate, being called a few things that I was called, that I was overrated and I wasn't tough or I wasn't very good.
Things like that.
I'm not saying that I could have. I was a young kid. I looking back, look at Michael Jordan, how he played when he was sick. I didn't handle the illness very well.
Very well.
But, I guess I was mama's boy. And, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for my mom to get me out of bed, you don't believe me, how I'd have been sleeping. I love to sleep.
She got you out there and out there. Yep.
So my brother-in-law's on the bench. Kiefer's back. He got a pretty good player named Mike Myers. And, I just I was more worried about the game, but it was one of those nights that I just felt like
hot.
Well, for the first time, I have to be honest. I know everybody knew I loved to shoot, but that's the only time I can tell you I played a game, and I wanted to shoot the ball every single time.
Every single time.
And I don't know. I don't think it's right. I didn't want to bury Oak Hill. I just wanted to make sure that, I competed because I didn't feel like I competed the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I wish we had the 3 because I'd have liked to go on for 60, but it was, I didn't like the fact though that at halftime some of our people were, taunting a little bit. We never wanted to do that. And
Yeah.
for that, I didn't say a word, but it sure felt good for me to really, go after, win again. It's a sectional.
Yeah. Now, what was your the Bill Green loved the matchup zone defense? Now, what was your role and responsibilities on that? Because what I've noticed you had great lateral movement, real pesky on defense. Let's talk about that. You were a great offensive scorer, but let's talk about maybe some of those defenses. I've noticed watching one of your Duke Carolina games, taking charges and things of that nature. It was good stuff, man. You talk about that matchup zone defense.
Well, thank you. I did get a few compliments from one of my teammates saying that, I think what's critical for a guard to do, you talk a lot about Pearson today, and you talk about the big guys, Lester, Acord, Harris, somewhat, but really people don't realize the guard's main responsibility is get everybody guards that are quick. I mean, I had to guard a guy by the name of Alan Level. He's the quickest guy I ever guarded in high school. He went on and played for the Rockets, but he played at Muncie Central. I really felt like I didn't want anybody to go north and south. And so my job in the matchup was to help organize everything, because everything on the matchup came off. I was the key to everything. Not that I was most important, being the key that Harris and all of them knew that whoever I took on the matchup, then they would go accordingly. And Bill just told me that if I ever let guards get inside, and not stop them and not, have them going north and south, that defense is nothing. Yes. So I did feel like that's why I said Fresh, my senior year, did a great job on the point. I was more of the first guard left. I was and we had first guard left and first guard right, and et cetera, in the Rova. So I really felt like, defense was underrated, but I think it was important that for the team defense, you got to make sure you let people, you try to make them go where you want them to go versus where they want to.
Yes. All right. Now let's jump out a little bit. We already know we won the state championship against Rushville. Oh, I do want to talk about this. I did hear one story to where when your dad hired Bill Green, I mean, people in the community absolutely didn't like Bill Green, from the Indianapolis connection and things like that. But then, lo and behold, he won that championship. Hey, he's a great guy, But I did hear a little bit of rumors about that. Let's jump right into the North Carolina stuff as far as not playing your freshman year. We talked about that the last video, but that sophomore year, coming in and getting some play time. And I understand, did you guys lose to Penn in the tournament, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, that was my junior. That was the
78.
The biggest loss I ever had happen in my life is the infamous Penn game. But back to Bill. What I learned, lifelong lessons, is loyalty, friendship. Dad just had a knack of, he's a class guy, but Dad was loyal to Bill. And Bill kind of struggled the first couple years. And all I ever heard Bill tell me when he screamed at me, he goes, I don't care if your dad's my boss, he can fire me, but you're going to do what I say. And those two never had a bad word. Dad, as parents, it's a good lesson. My dad probably could have had some opinions about some things, being the expert. Never badmouth Bill. and he told me keep my mouth shut. And if Bill told me to do something, do it. Yes. And I think we need more of that in the world today. That trust people that are that know what they're doing, and common respect to each other, and let people do their job. And my dad was his boss, and Bill came to Dad my third year, my sophomore year, and he said, "Jack, I don't think I'm gonna make it." And Dad just said, "I don't know what you're talking about. You're the coach.
Get on back in there and coach."
All he did was just beat up on me a little bit more, and that's fine. But it was a great testimony to both men, and I love both of them. And Dad was my dad, and Bill was my coach and teacher, and I was lucky.
Yes. Let's talk about this. So the 75 championship, everybody rode back to Marion and had a big party. Now, your senior year, what I understand is your dad and coach had you guys stay there after the game, and then had a big celebration the next day. Could you talk about the differences in between junior year with the whole town partying and senior year staying down in Indy and delaying it to the next day? The difference.
Not that I had to say so, but looking back, I would always prefer to come back after the game. I got to tell you, I have never seen Marion, Indiana rocking like in 75, because 49 years I don't know if we even got into Elwood, but I've never seen as many cars and we had, it was just crazy. And then riding it was cold, but I didn't care, riding on the fire truck. And probably the greatest moment of my life, my grandfather, Bob, who was at that time in 75, he was 83, and he was telling everybody who he was, and he was up in the press box. And I guarantee you, Holland, I think there had to be 20,000 people, because they pushed the bleachers back. But that was probably the greatest, one of the greatest moments in my sports life. It was just so much fun, and everybody was just so happy. 76, while it was great, I just felt like they made a decision, and while it was fun, there's nothing like coming back at
What did you guys do?
I didn't do anything other than ride the fire truck and freeze and wave to everybody. I waved to everybody. I didn't care. I was blowing kisses to everybody.
I meant your senior year when you guys stayed in Indy. What did you guys do after the game when everybody went home?
That's what was crazy about it. You're so tired, and it was late. I think we all had some pizza, and I don't remember that much. My roommate was Jeff Bragg. We had a great time talking about everything, and we probably stayed up a couple hours. But it was fun. But in 76, it was more a surprise. Honestly, I don't think any of us believe we were going to win it.
Yeah.
Any of it. We every game we played, we knew it was going to be a 1-2 point game, but it was just different. It was fun. It was nicer. We probably got a little bit more sleep, but I think Mom and Dad came up. But it was staying in a hotel. It's like crazy, staying in a hotel. 17-year-old kid.
Fun. I hear. I remember those days very vividly. So let's jump away from the high school setting and go into North Carolina. And we talked about not playing your freshman year, but then coming in that sophomore year and playing, which I believe was it Roy Williams' first year as an assistant? Coach down there.
Well, it was funny. Well, first, my freshman year, I'll be honest, I didn't realize how homesick I was. I didn't know what 600 miles was. I didn't think about it. And, my whole life changed because, mom and dad moved out, Bill left, and dad left, and like they say, life changes quickly. So
Yes.
my freshman year, I think a lot was said about a lot of injuries. I thought I did have a lot, but I broke my foot early on. I think I played only 4 games, and it was funny. I was going to be redshirted, and Coach Smith said, you don't need to be redshirted. So I basically missed my whole freshman year. And later on, they realized that we had a lot of, at Carmichael, we had a lot of knee injuries, ankle. James Worthy broke his foot the same way I did. And I was lucky. I didn't have to have pins. And his career almost ended that day. So we lost Lagarde with a knee injury. So fast forward, that's why they really started to speed up the Smith Center because that floor was hard. But so anyway, I lost my freshman year. And then probably the worst thing no one ever talked about was in April of after the first year was over. It was very disappointing. I didn't play much. We got beat by Marquette in the final game. Yeah. And my grandfather died. And to this day, there's a piece of me that never ever got over that that day. And so my sophomore year was probably the hardest year of my life because I'll be honest, I wasn't over him. It was very difficult because I think a lot of times people, look at athletes and not that they shouldn't, but they don't see there's other parts to it. And I did not have a good sophomore year. I didn't even know what the word grieving meant.
Until it hit you.
Well, I knew one thing. I was mad as heck that I lost my best friend and my hero. And, my grandfather was, everything to me, and both my grandparents, but that man was, he was my rock, and I love him, and I still talk about him to this day.
Yes. Nothing wrong with that, my friend. All right. But what I did notice, me, you did score a career high 21 against Cincinnati. Now let's talk about that game going back, scoring 20 in college, big time basketball. Can you go back to that game against Cincinnati and how things were going for you?
Yeah. I felt like just like a little bit about high school, Phil Ford graduated. Everybody said, Carolina's, not going to be good. The same old things they do. We were reloading. And obviously, if you could imagine me replacing, Phil Ford, he set all kind of records. And so there's a lot of detractors that year. I really felt like that was a team that was just like my 75 team, not mine, but our 75 team. Felt like that was next to that team, the best team I ever played on. We had myself, we had Dudley Bradley was called Secretary of Defense. Al Wood was 3, Michael Karn was 4, and then 5 was that was the honestly our weak spot. We had about 3 different centers, but that was to me the best team that we had. And so we got a chance to go back, and Coach Smith always wanted to make sure that all of the high school players that were playing in college got back to close to their hometown. And for me, Cincinnati was the closest at that time. Yeah. In my senior year, it was Indiana. And so I was glad I won both those games close to home. But, all I remember Coach saying from that game, I wanted to fire it up more. And he just came over and he said, man, you just kept shooting. He said, but you didn't play. He said, you didn't play defense. And I said, I was too busy worried about scoring. So what you talked about earlier, he really wanted me to use my quickness and play defense. And, me, I was wanting to score for my friends in the stands.
Put that thing in the bucket. Yes. Now, I did see, I saw some crazy stuff doing research. You guys had a game against Providence. There was a dog running across the court. Do you remember that game? Man,
it was on national TV. That was the craziest game. It was snowstorm. Yeah, I tell you what, it was the funnest time because that was before ESPN, and
Mm-hmm.
we had the 16 millimeter tapes, and I'll never forget. Coach Smith loved to watch the tape, and the
Mm-hmm.
bad thing about those tapes, you can reverse and all these other newer tapes, but there's something about those 16 millimeter, every frame. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget, I'd do something stupid or I'd loaf on defense, and he'd let everybody know. He said, let's all watch Colescott loaf on defense. And he'd
Mm-hmm.
run it, and then he'd run it back. And then he'd run it back 5-6 times to make sure that I, could tell that was a teaching moment. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we were watching the game for Providence, and there was like 4 or 5 things that was the craziest thing. That game was crazy.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that watching a little bit of the highlights, but I didn't want to stay on too much of that. But I did notice stinking dogs walking across the thing. Another thing I noticed was
Hey, can I tell you about that? Can I tell you? Can I tell
yes,
you
sir.
about that Providence? So what I thought of, and you think I'm crazy, but this is how my dad messes with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember the Black Cat, but in the Cubs in the 69 game.
I saw that. Baseball.
Yeah, playing the Mets. And I didn't know at the time, but everybody later said the Cubs thought that the Mets did it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened when the Mets overcame the Cubs. So, when I thought about that Providence game, I said, oh no, this is a playback of a curse,
Mm-hmm.
from the Cubs. So isn't it amazing how something can be in your head about 10 years before?
Yes. And that was it. Now, I did want to touch too. I was watching a game where Jaminski hit Al Wood with an elbow and then knocked him flat out. And Spanarko, it was got all kind of crazy down there against them Duke boys that game. Can you talk about that game? And then Jaminski come over to Coach, and Coach said something to him, and Jaminski walks back in tears. And I'm like, what did Coach say to him?
Well, you got to remember, a year later, he's the one that hit me with an elbow and broke my orbital bone and knocked me out. But I will tell you right now that Duke Carolina was probably at the pinnacle of bad blood. There was no good blood, starting with Spanarkel, starting with Tates Armstrong, Jaminski, Banks, Denard. They came over, but you talk about, there was didn't a lot of talking, but all we cared about was beating Duke, and there was no love lost. When I tell you, Holland, it's everything that people said it was. In fact, it's gotten very nice with the last 5-10 years. We're looking back saying,
we've never done that. Yeah.
It was, that's why I think that is the best thing about the rivalry. People don't realize I was shocked that Carolina beat them 2 times in a row, because when you have that talented of teams that close, people don't realize when you're that close in talent and both teams' ability, the mental side and the we would it'd be like a boxing match. We'd beat them, come back, and they'd beat us, and we'd beat them, and so. But yeah, Jaminski was known. All I can tell you, I've seen him since that time he hit me, and we still had words. I saw him, and I told him I'm ready to take him on to that day.
Right now, hey, 40 years later, come on.
I tell Mike Jaminski, who weighs 240, he's 6'11", and I'm short and squatty. But
hey, come on, baby, let's go.
I'd hate to see he'd hurt me, I know, but I was ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Now, I did notice this. I want to ask you about the adjustment of, say, 18 points a game in high school and 26 points a game in high school, but then your junior year in UNC, 8.7 points a game. Your senior year, 7.5 points a game. Could you talk about the adjustment of going from a big-time scorer to kind of being more of a traditional point guard and some of the changes that were required of you?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the better questions. You know, it just philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky. What I learned that I had in high school was great for me because I learned that that was great. But you know, to have the green light. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
had the green light. Let's face it. You
Yeah.
know, Bill really believed that all of us. You know, you could say that Pearson had the green light, Lester, Acorn, Harris. You know, but just a different philosophy. But for me, you know, Bill was a different style. What
Mm-hmm.
Dean loved is exactly what you said. He wanted me to pressure and
Yeah.
really distribute. And you know, I mean, come on, passing the ball to an All-American. You know, Michael Corrin,
Oh
Al
yeah.
Woods, a great shooter I've been around.
Yeah.
Dudley Bradley was one of the best defensive and combination. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought we had a really strong front court, but you know, my role most of the time, unless we got to a zone, was you know to shoot between 5 and 7 times. Coach all he talked about with me is how much my man scored. He
Mm-hmm.
always talked about my assist to turnover ratio.
Yes.
He liked about 7 to 8 assists.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I've been known to be careless at times and try to make great passes, but he'd like, you know, a great night for me. He'd say he would score 6 to 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
My man contained my man and have an assist air
Yeah.
ratio about, you know, at least 3 to 1. And so
Mm-hmm.
eight and 1 or 2 was
Something
usually,
like
and
that.
I had
Yeah.
a lot of those. And, you know, like I said, it's a different way to get there, but we had over 100 wins, and that was in our 4 years,
Yeah.
and that's what I enjoy. But I'll be honest, I wanted to shoot more, but
Oh,
he
no
believed,
doubt. No doubt. You
but
know,
he
with that.
believed, yeah, with that, but he believed that, and it's true that to get it inside more um, was more of an advantage because then you get their big men in foul trouble. You
Mm-hmm.
also look at percentages without the 3 point. He told me all the time. He says, "Why do you want to shoot 25 to 30 feet?" I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Because I love it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's 25. I'm good."
I can
He
hit that shot. Yeah.
but he said, "Dave, percentages, a
Mm-hmm.
15-footer versus that," and you know, I loved it. It was for me the 7 years between you know 74
Uh-huh.
and 80 was you know the greatest time of my life because
Yeah.
think about playing for Marion
Mm-hmm.
and playing at Carmichael and the same type of atmosphere and
Mm-hmm.
these other guys I played with, they didn't know what you know high school was.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dave, for joining us. We'll get you back again real soon for part 3. Thanks for
Hey
joining us.
Holland, you can tell I don't have any trouble talking. I enjoy our time together,
Oh,
my friend.
Dave, I could sit here all day, but I know you have other things to do, and I'll talk to you soon.
God bless you.
Right on, brother. God bless you.